Hey everyone, it's Anna Runyon. I'm thrilled to introduce you to today's guest. Our guest is Jennifer Spivak. She is the CEO and founder of the Ad Girls Agency, and she has helped hundreds of businesses generate millions of dollars on Facebook and Instagram. And her all-female team enjoys crunching numbers, helping women-owned businesses make tons of money, and breaking the rules when it comes to Facebook ads. So in today's episode, Jennifer shared so much that will help you if you want to grow and scale your business. She shared how she grew her business from 5 employees to 12 employees during a pandemic, the Facebook ads experiment that she ran that ended up being the biggest driver for her first 7-figure year, and how she discovered her vision for her career and her business that she wanted to have. She shares so much about her personal journey and the transformation that she has gone through going from freelancer to CEO. I found the leadership lessons in this episode extremely helpful, and I think you will too. So let's dive in and meet Jennifer. Welcome, Jennifer. I am super excited to have you here on the podcast today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So I was doing some research about you before our call today, and I heard that your career journey all started with an internship. So I would love to hear about the internship and how that led you to where you are today.
Yes. So the story starts with, I met this guy on Craigslist, and it doesn't end maybe the way that you think it would, but really that's how it started. I was in college. I was looking for internships and various opportunities on Craigslist. And I saw a post saying, hey, I'm growing a digital marketing agency. It's really a one-man show. I'm looking for an intern, but the vision is that this intern would essentially grow and potentially become a part owner and run the business when I plan to go back to business school in a year. And I can remember the instant that I read that post, and I just knew oh, that is mine. This is the position for me. And went in, had the interview, was hired on the spot. And what that led into was me being, I guess I must have been 19 or 20 at the time, stepping into running and building a company from the ground up. No experience, no idea what I'm doing. And, kind of getting to play entrepreneur with someone else's money, because I was getting paid a salary. It was a small one. It was, an intern and then a junior salary, but really getting to run this company when my, at that time, boss and eventually business partner did go back to business school. And so eventually I was made a part owner of the business. We grew from the 2 of us in a teeny tiny office to a team of nearly 20 in 2 different states. Just really blew up. And, at the end of the day, what that led to is a moment of me looking around in my mid-20s and, kind of starting to have a sense of who I am and what I want, and realizing that the vision that I had for my life was no longer aligned with what the company was, that we had built something that was so big that it actually wasn't the small boutique-y, kind of freedom and flexible environment that I had originally desired. So I realized that, even though I put all of this time and effort, and it was my baby, and it was walking away before the real payout in a way, there was just this moment of, if I'm staying here, it's selling my soul for money. That would be the reason that I would stay. And I can't. And I left and I started my own thing, and I never looked back.
I love it. I love how you talked about your vision too, because it's something we talk about a lot here too. Where you were wasn't going to match with your future vision. So you created your own thing. So tell us about what the company was you created. How did that first year go then when you launched?
Yeah. So there were 2 things that really stood out to me about the old company that stopped being aligned. One was that it had become a total boys club. It was me and 1 other woman in the office. And the other thing was that the hustle and the grind and getting into the office at 7 a.m. was really glorified. And I had always felt well, why is that necessary, right? Why is it that we need to adhere to these formal standard, get in the office at this time, working the longest hours wins. And I wanted to be able to create something where people, myself and my team included, had the freedom and flexibility to work where they want, when they want, and how they want. And that actually, that was the method towards even better results. And so what I built was an all-female Facebook and Instagram advertising agency where we have currently a team of 12, and my team is all over the country. We are 100% remote, even pre-COVID. Everybody really does have, again, myself included, that freedom and flexibility to work in the way that works for them. And so, yeah, I mean, really everything about the current company was what wasn't working for me at the previous agency. Just in terms of that first year, it was definitely just me. And it was really just me actually for a couple of years where I was thinking and functioning, both logistically and in my mindset, very much as a freelancer. And so really just like trying to hit those first 10K months and, you know, be able to say, hey, leaving was beneficial and that I'm able to, at minimum, you know, match what I was making there and have a better quality of life.
I love that. And you talk about some of the struggles that you dealt with moving from like freelancer entrepreneur then to CEO and hiring. So tell us about some mistakes you made so we don't make that.
It really was, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it was like an identity crisis. It was a mid-business crisis. It was like transformational experience, just so intense of really having to become something different. And you know, instead of me being the driver, me being the producer, the doer of all of the things, and really just, you know, generating revenue that was solely for me, to it's actually not about me. And I'm now the creator. I like to think of myself as like the alchemist of this thing that now exists outside of me that is much bigger than me. And figuring out like what that means in terms of my role, my expectation, where do I spend my time? And then like, whoa, what is my value? Like if I'm not the one that's doing all of the things anymore, if I'm not the executor, like, oh no, do I have value here? Do they need me? Like just layers upon layers of like this deep transformational journey really is the best way to describe it. And figuring out how to operate really as the owner of a company versus it's just about, you know, me and the work that I do and the money that I am making for myself.
I love that. And it goes back to the vision too. Like that's your number one priority, right? Because you now support all these people. You talked about how you grew your business during the pandemic as well. I think you went from 5 to now I have in my notes, I have 11. You must have just hired someone because you just said 12.
We are constantly growing and hiring. We're actually in the process of another hiring round. So potentially by the time this airs, we'll be closer to 15. We experienced 80% year-over-year growth from 2019 to 2020. And then even just looking at Q1 of 2021, we're 180% growth from Q1 of 2020. So we are just in this expansive, like it feels like I'm in some like weird quantum field where I'm still like, what is happening? Looking around, like I don't know what's going on. But we are growing like crazy, and it's been pretty amazing and phenomenal.
I love that. I love it too because with the pandemic, it's been so tough. So I think for all of us, it's like, yes, we want to hear these stories, these like positive stories of growing during the pandemic. So yes. What do you mean when you encourage people to break the rules in your business? Like, do you feel like you've had to break some rules as you've grown your business?
So I'm definitely, I've been a rule breaker like since I was little. You can ask my parents and they'll vouch for that. But you know, really what I mean when I talk about being a rule breaker is being willing to do it your way, like simply because that's your way and that's what feels best. So there are a lot of moments and instances where it's like, well, the traditional business advice or the traditional marketing advice would say, this is how this is supposed to be done. And I say, that doesn't feel right for me. I'm going to go ahead and do it this other way. And, you know, I've clearly seen a lot of success in doing that. I think at the end of the day, there's just something to tuning in and really, again, ditching the rules and saying what would actually feel like perfectly aligned and good and like almost juicy, right? For me to, market myself or grow my business, and really having that be the North Star and adhering to that, versus the rules.
Especially about when you're dealing with Facebook and Instagram, right? Well, are there
Oh,
rules?
100%. There are so many rules. And that is something, I mean, even just in our own marketing for the agency, which has been a big part of the growth that we've had, there's a particular funnel that I've used that has been wildly profitable, that is the complete opposite of, in quotes, how you are supposed to do Facebook ads, right? We've all been taught, and this is not even just Facebook ads, it's marketing. We've all been taught you've got to do all this nurturing up front, provide value, give the free training, give. And I'm not knocking that in any way, by the way. I think there are moments where that feels really good. For me, given that we are, a very high touch white glove agency providing a high level service, me spending my time delivering free value and content wasn't aligned with where I wanted to be spending my time, which is really focused on finding the right people who immediately could see our expertise and really use that to grow the business. And so, just the easiest way to describe it is that we're running ads to totally cold traffic, people who do not know who we are, and we're not sending them to a freebie, a lead magnet, a webinar, the traditional stuff that the rules would tell you you're supposed to do. We're straight to, hey, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what we charge, book a call if you're interested. And that funnel has anywhere from a 20 to 25 times return on ad spend at any given time. That means anytime I spend $1,000, I'll make $20 to $25,000 back, and so on and so forth. At last time I checked, it's brought in close to $800,000 in revenue on, again, I can't remember the exact numbers, but not that much in ad spend. And it's the complete opposite of what everybody else is doing in marketing, in business, and with ads, and it's killing it.
Yeah, you have to experiment. I love that as well. Like, and because you talk about it when I was looking at your site too, you talk about how ads can be simple. And that's like a perfect example. It doesn't have to be the wild, complex funnels. I think that's what's so overwhelming, right?
Yes. And I think that's like, so the bros in the space, right? And like, this isn't a knock on men because we love men, but like, that whole broy, bro marketer thing, which some women can, can partake in as well, is really about, hey, there's a secret behind the curtain and I actually can't tell you what it is. I know better. It's too complex for you. You wouldn't understand. Pay me $1 million. So we just don't do things that way. I mean, look, are there certain strategies and experiences and even intuition that we have from doing this for so long that makes us experts? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, what really makes ads work is the basic foundation of you having an offer that people want and knowing the right messaging that moves them forward. And that actually almost has nothing to do with the ads, right? Ads are just a channel. Like, that's really all that it is. And so when we say ads are simple, it's, if you have something that people want, it's been validated, you have at least a sense of the right messaging in terms of how to sell it to people, then getting it in front of the right people and getting them to move through your customer decision journey is actually a rather simple process.
Yeah, ads are incredible. I know we've used ads for over 5 years. That was one of the main reasons I was able to quit my day job back in 2014, because I got in there and figured it out myself and simplified it too, for sure. And obviously it's changed so much. My husband is now in charge of our ads as well. I'm going to have him check out your site and listen to this too. So, awesome. So when you talk about ads, does it require a lot of money? Because I know that's a big worry that I've heard as far as using ads.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's impossible to say the amount of money that it requires, because of course it depends on a person's goals and your, how much revenue you can make per lead or per customer, and what sort of cost of acquisition you can, maintain and still be able to have profit margins. Just for reference, like what we at the agency do is we have a minimum starting budget of $2,000 per month. So look, if you're going to DIY, which I mostly don't recommend, but clearly there are success stories and sometimes people will do it. You can start with a couple $100s a month. Again, we have that minimum of $2,000 per month. And the way we always explain it to clients, which I think is really helpful for everybody, is it's not that $2,000 is the number that we've picked that's going to allow you to hit your goals. It's that it's a starting number that allows for enough flexibility with testing, because it's definitely, all testing at the end of the day. That's the name of the game. The reason why you don't want to just, go all in with ads, let's say at $10 a day, is that you can only be testing so many things at once. Otherwise, your budget is spread too thinly and your data won't be statistically significant. So you do want to have, again, that higher, ideally, a couple $1,000s a month to start, be able to appropriately split test things, get the right data so that you can find what works and be able to say, I only spent $2,000 and I made back $6,000. Now, is making $6,000 in a month the most exciting thing ever? I mean, for some businesses, it may be. For a lot of the businesses that we work with, especially when you factor in our agency fee, it's like not anything to write home about. So what we always say is it's not about spending $2,000 and making $6,000 back. It's unlocking where you can get a 3 times return. So even if you're starting at $300 a month, you start where you start, you do your testing until you can ultimately find and unlock the things that work and be able to say, I've figured out the ad, the audience, the copy, the creative, the funnel that allows me to get a 3, a 4, 5 times return on my ad spend, and then consistently scale and put more money in to the point where you're able to, again, start with 2 and make 6, and then spend 10 and make 30,000, spend 30,000 and make 90,000, and so on and so forth. And that's a lot less scary than starting out with a $30,000 a month budget when you're not quite sure what's going to work.
Yeah, you learn. So I'm glad you talked about the testing, because I've seen so many people start, it didn't work, they lost money, and then they stop because they failed. I mean, but you have to learn and test and test and test so much. So I'm really glad that you talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the ways we always recommend clients look at it in the beginning is you're buying data, plain and simple, right? Like we're figuring out what works. And if you're really going to go all in and invest in ads, you should be prepared to really give it a full 3 months with no expectation of a return. Now, look, if things should start performing well before that, but just in terms of expectations and having the right mindset of everything being a test, that 3-month runway is a really nice time to be able to go through all of the various tests to really be able to unlock what's going to work.
Yeah, it's fun because you have that data too. Like I know my husband and I sometimes we're like so excited to see, what's happened. So it is kind of like a game in a way too. So it's fun.
Yeah.
So share a little, you said you have an experiment and how it ended up being the driver for your first 7-figure year.
Yeah, so that experiment was actually that funnel that I was talking about where we do just drive traffic to a totally cold audience. I mean, it really all started with me thinking, okay, we've been in existence for a couple of years. We've grown pretty steadily through word of mouth and referrals, which is awesome. But we didn't have any control over our own growth. And like that kind of drove me crazy. And so, it all started with me thinking through, okay, I really do want to get into ads and run like a funnel and a system and a machine the way we do for clients. What would be the right lead magnet? And the more I thought about it and thinking about like our perfect client and what would they download or what webinar would they watch? Like I came to the answer of they wouldn't. They're not, not only are they busy, but they're beyond any sense of DIY or learning. They're so different from the DIY buyers. They're like, higher up, further along in business, whatever it is, that they really just want the right person to come along and do the thing for them. And so it was, again, a total experiment of, are you even to just run ads to a cold audience and do what I was saying before, right? This is who we are. This is what we do. This is what we charge. Book a call if you're interested. Like that was unheard of. So it was truly an experiment. And, in all honesty, if I wasn't so busy that month that I set up that experiment, I would have ruined it and we would not be here having this conversation. Wow. Because as any ads manager will tell you, there's the inclination to constantly touch your campaigns. I don't know if you've had that experience or your husband, right? And like that can actually get in your way, especially when you're dealing with something high ticket. You know, for us, one closed sale is between, you know, $12,000 and $20,000. And so if I'm starting to tinker with the ads because it's not working after spending 500 bucks, I'm potentially missing that I could spend $500 to get one booked call, given the value on the end of it. And so the only reason I didn't start touching and tinkering with it is that I got busy because it was still a point of my business where I was doing everything. I forgot that I was running it. It completely slipped my mind. And then next thing you knew, I went and looked and I said, oh my God, it's working. And again, that has been the funnel that was, you know, the big contributing factor to our first 7-figure year. And it's a big part of what we're using to go to multiple 7 figures this year. It just continues to grow and work and scale. It's been running for well over a year, so clearly tons of data, and it was really an accident.
I love that. And because what I've learned too is that like the longer you run it, the more Facebook learns about who your ideal client is too. So if you just give up and you just stop, you're not letting Facebook like find out who is the right market for this too.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us more about where people can find about you and all of your help with ads, because you apparently know what's happening, know what's working.
Yeah, we try to keep our finger on the pulse. It's a moving target,
It
but
is.
we do.
They've probably changed something while we've been talking.
100%. Somebody on my team was joking the other day saying, I don't think I've ever opened up the ads manager and said, oh yeah, this is what it looks like yesterday as well. Like, nope, that doesn't really happen. But everything about myself and my agency is at theadgirls.com. We call ourselves the Ad Girls, and we are the Ad Girls agency. And so you can learn all about who we are and what we do and see some case studies and testimonials over there.
Awesome. So give us your final word of wisdom for someone who's just getting started in the online world, wants to grow their business, scale their business. What would be your word of wisdom for them?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something we talked about, which is just like be willing to break all of the rules. I think the further along I've gotten in business, the like almost at every level, I'm like, oh, that thing that I was so sure was like a fixed rule that like if I stepped too far out of the box, it would somehow be bad. The more I see that's not a real rule, I made it up. And actually, the more I step out of the box, the more successful I am without trying, the more like the right clients are just magnetized to us without doing anything. And so for anybody that, you know, can hear this and shorten the process, right, of the being willing to continuously break the rules and lean further and further into just doing, you know, what feels super aligned and who they are, I think that can ultimately shorten the path to success.
I love it. Yes. Super aligned to who you are. Great way to end this. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being with us today.
Thank you, Anna.